That dress looks like it came from a donation bin.
That dress looks like it came from a donation bin. Priscilla Winthrop's voice cut through the string quartet's melody, sharp enough that 3 tables turned to look. Josephine Hartwell stood frozen, a tray of champagne flutes balanced on her palm, wearing the same faded blue gown her mother had worn to her own wedding 26 years earlier. No one in the ballroom of Hartwell Tower that night knew the young woman in secondhand silk owned every marble tile beneath their feet, every crystal chandelier above their heads, and the very name stitched into the Gala's program in gold lettering. By the time the string quartet finished its next song, one woman in that room would lose everything she'd spent 15 years building, and the man standing near the kitchen doors, refilling water glasses without looking up, had no idea he was about to become the reason Josephine risked all of it. 6 weeks earlier, none of this had even seemed possible. It started in her father's office on the 40th floor, where the city lights stretched out beneath the glass like scattered coins. Walter Hartwell had built Hartwell Holdings from a single leased storefront in Cleveland into one of the largest property empires on the eastern seaboard, and for 30 years he had guarded one belief above all others. A person's character showed itself only when they believed no one important was watching. "You want the company," he said to his daughter, not looking up from the papers on his desk. "I've wanted it my whole life," Josephine answered. "Then you'll earn it the way I did, not behind a desk, not with my name opening doors." He finally looked up. "You'll work the Gala circuit as staff, catering, coat check, whatever they need. No assistants, no driver, no Hartwell name. And if I refuse?" "Then perhaps," Walter said quietly, "you were never ready to sit where I sit." Silence filled the office. Finally, Josephine nodded. "I'll do it." 3 weeks later, nobody recognized her. She'd traded her tailored blazers for a plain black catering uniform, pulled her hair into a low knot, and told the staffing agency her name was simply Josie. Her first shift was in education. Guests handed her empty glasses without a glance. One man snapped his fingers to get her attention. Still, she said nothing. She only smiled, refilled the glass, and kept moving, gathering, one small cruelty at a time, exactly the truth her father had sent her to find. By the second week, Josephine had learned the true rhythm of invisibility. It wasn't loud, it wasn't cruel in any single dramatic moment. It was small, constant, and wearing, like water finding every crack in stone. She worked 3 more events that week, each one hosted somewhere on the Hartwell property portfolio, each one filled with guests who had built their fortunes, or married into them, and never once had to ask permission to exist in a room. At a fundraiser for the symphony, a woman handed Josephine her fur coat without breaking eye contact with her phone. At a corporate mixer 2 floors below her own office, a junior associate barked a drink order at her, then laughed with his colleagues about how the help at these things always looked so tired. Josephine wanted to remind him she'd approved his firm's lease renewal herself 6 months earlier. Instead, she carried his scotch, neat, and said nothing. The hardest part wasn't the rudeness, it was the invisibility. People looked through her the way they looked through furniture, and she began to understand something her father had never fully explained. Wealth didn't just buy comfort, it bought the right to stop noticing other people entirely. Not everyone treated her that way. There was a fellow caterer named Denise Kowalski who shared her granola bar with Josephine during a 16-hour double without being asked. But it was one man in particular who began, without either of them realizing it, to change everything. His name was Marcus Doyle, and he'd been catering events for Bishop & Sons Hospitality for almost 2 years while finishing paramedic training on the side. He moved through a room like he'd rather not be noticed at all, which made him easy to overlook until you needed help, and then he was somehow already there. Meanwhile, the woman causing most of the friction on the events calendar had a name everyone on staff had learned to say carefully: Priscilla Winthrop, chair of nearly every gala committee that mattered, and self-appointed gatekeeper of who belonged in which room. Priscilla had married into old money at 24 and spent the 15 years since defending her position in it like a soldier guarding a border. She had a talent for cruelty, disguised as concern, the kind of comment that could humiliate a person while technically remaining polite enough to repeat at brunch. She singled out Josephine almost immediately, not because Josephine had done anything wrong, but because something about her unsettled Priscilla in a way she couldn't name. Josephine didn't flinch when spoken to sharply. She held herself, even in a catering uniform, like someone who had never once needed anyone's approval, and Priscilla, who had built her entire identity on being approved of, found that unbearable. "You," Priscilla said one evening, snapping her fingers toward Josephine across the room, "your tray is crooked. Fix it before someone important sees." Josephine straightened the tray without a word. Marcus, several feet away, caught Josephine's eye and gave the smallest shake of his head, not pity, just solidarity. It was such a small gesture. It was, Josephine would later realize, the exact moment she stopped seeing him as simply a co-worker. What none of them knew that night was that Priscilla's cruelty toward the quiet caterer named Josie was about to collide with a secret far bigger than a crooked tray. And in exactly 4 weeks, at the very gala Priscilla herself was chairing, that secret would walk through the front doors wearing a secondhand dress, and Priscilla would be the one who unknowingly destroyed her own career in front of 500 witnesses. Josephine first understood who Marcus Doyle really was on a Thursday night when the freight elevator broke down mid-event. 2 full cases of wine glasses sat stranded on the loading dock, and the service stairwell was the only way up. Marcus didn't wait for instructions. He hoisted both cases himself, climbing 4 flights, while Denise Kowalski limped behind him, favoring her ankle after twisting it on a wet tile. "Sit down," Marcus told her at the top, setting the glasses aside without hesitation. "I'll cover your section till the manager gets back." "You'll get written up for leaving your own tables," Denise warned. "Then I'll get written up." He crouched to check her ankle, gentle and quick, the way someone does when they've had real training. "Ice this. Elevate it. Don't put weight on it till the swelling drops." Josephine watched from the stairwell doorway, still catching her breath from her own climb, and said nothing until Marcus noticed her standing there. "You always work this hard when nobody's watching?" she asked, half joking. "Especially when nobody's watching," he said. "That's usually when it matters most." Later that night, breaking down a dessert table together, she learned the rest. His mother had a heart condition. Insurance covered some of it, not all of it. He was finishing paramedic training between double shifts, picking up every gala he could to close the gap. "Some days are better than others," he admitted, folding a tablecloth with more focus than the task required. "I figure if I can't fix the diagnosis, I can at least cover the bills." He said it without asking for sympathy. And when a guest's forgotten gloves turned up near the coat check 20 minutes later, expensive, monogrammed, easy to simply hand to lost and found, Marcus tracked down the woman himself instead, walking 2 blocks in the cold to catch her before her car pulled away, because she'll worry all night otherwise. Josephine caught her own reflection in the dark ballroom window as she watched him go, still wearing the same plain uniform, and thought, not for the first time, how strange it was that a stranger's decency was starting to feel more valuable than anything her name had ever bought her. Priscilla Winthrop noticed the shift between Josephine and Marcus before either of them fully understood it themselves, and it unsettled her more than she wanted to admit. The confrontation came on a Friday evening, in front of enough staff that word spread within the hour. Priscilla found the newly posted break schedule on the kitchen wall, and, in front of Marcus, Denise, and 2 servers refilling ice bins, crossed out Josephine's name entirely. "Ms. Winthrop, I was on that schedule," Josephine said evenly, stepping forward. "I haven't had a break in 6 hours." "Then I suggest you work faster." Priscilla didn't look up from her clipboard. "We're short-staffed tonight, and frankly, you've been slow all evening." Marcus set down the tray he was carrying. "She's covered 3 sections since 5 o'clock. I watched her do it." Priscilla's eyes flicked to him, and something cold entered her voice. "How gallant, though I'd think a man with your responsibilities couldn't afford to be picky about whose side he takes." She let the words sit, deliberately, long enough for Marcus to understand exactly what she meant, that she knew about his mother, and had filed it away as leverage rather than hardship. His jaw tightened, but he said nothing more. "Back to work," Priscilla said, already walking away. "Both of you." Josephine stood frozen for a moment, furious in a way she couldn't safely express without breaking her cover, while Denise quietly slid a bottle of water across the counter toward her without a word. Later that week, Priscilla escalated further. She called Bishop & Sons Hospitality Management directly and suggested, with practiced concern, that Marcus's outside obligations might be affecting his reliability. It wasn't true. He'd never missed a shift. But the suggestion alone planted exactly the doubt she intended. What Priscilla didn't know was that every calculated cruelty was being quietly recorded in far more permanent ink than gossip. In 3 weeks, at the very gala she was chairing, all of it would return to her at once. The truth came out by accident, the way most dangerous truths do. It happened on a Tuesday evening, 10 days before the autumn benefit, when Josephine was called away from a routine setup shift to sign a stack of documents her father's assistant needed before a closing deadline. She'd changed out of her uniform and back into her own clothes, thinking the building would be empty at that hour, and hadn't expected to run into anyone from the events team on the 40th floor. Priscilla had come to drop off a signed vendor contract for the autumn benefit and was waiting near the executive suite when the elevator doors opened. She looked up, expecting an assistant, and instead found herself staring directly at the caterer she'd spent 3 weeks quietly tormenting, now wearing a tailored blazer, standing outside Walter Hartwell's private office, being greeted by his executive assistant with unmistakable familiarity. "Ms. Hartwell," the assistant said warmly, "your father's just finishing a call. He said to send you right in." Priscilla's stomach dropped. For a moment, she simply stood frozen, running the name through her mind, trying to force it into a shape that made sense. Hartwell. Josephine. The pieces assembled themselves with sickening clarity, and when they finally locked into place, Priscilla felt something colder than embarrassment settle over her. Josephine saw the recognition land across Priscilla's face, and, for a brief moment, considered explaining herself. Then she remembered the crooked tray comment, the deliberately unfair schedules, the quiet threat made to Marcus's employer, and decided the truth could wait exactly as long as she wanted it to. "Ms. Winthrop," Josephine said evenly, offering nothing more than a polite nod, as though they were meeting for the first time. "I hope the vendor contracts are in order." Priscilla's mouth opened, then closed. Yes, of course." Josephine walked past her into her father's office without another word, leaving Priscilla standing alone in the hallway, with a truth she had no idea how to use yet, and every intention of finding out. Because Priscilla Winthrop had never in her life discovered a secret she didn't eventually try to weaponize. Rather than confess what she'd done, rather than change how she treated the people around her, she decided to get ahead of the story before it could get ahead of her. She had no idea that decision would destroy her in exactly 10 days, in the very ballroom she had spent months preparing. Bradley Whitfield III had first noticed Josephine 2 weeks earlier, at a wine tasting where he'd assumed she was simply new staff with unusually good posture. It wasn't until Priscilla mentioned her name over cocktails, "Josie the caterer, though I hear she's actually a Hartwell, some sort of test her father's running," that his casual interest turned into pursuit. He began appearing wherever Josephine worked. "Always charming, always persistent. Your secret's safe with me," he told her at a corporate mixer, leaning in close enough that Marcus, refilling glasses 2 tables away, couldn't help but notice. "Dinner sometime? Somewhere with fewer trays involved." Josephine declined, firmly, more than once. Bradley didn't seem to hear it as anything but a delay. Over the following 10 days, he found reasons to attend 4 separate events, always positioning himself close enough that gossip moved through the staff almost as fast as it moved through the guests. Marcus noticed, and said less each time. Their easy conversations shortened, then thinned to almost nothing. 3 nights before the autumn benefit, Josephine finally caught him alone near the loading dock. "You've been avoiding me." "I've been working." Marcus didn't quite meet her eyes. "Whitfield's been circling you for 2 weeks. Guy like that. That's your world, not mine. There's nothing between me and Bradley Whitfield." "Doesn't look like nothing." His voice wasn't angry, only tired, which cut deeper than anger would have. "You're about to inherit an empire, Josephine. I'm about to inherit my mother's medical bills. I think we both know how this usually goes." He walked away before she could answer. Josephine stood alone in the cold, and the gala was 3 days out, and nothing between them had been resolved. Not the misunderstanding, not the distance, not the ache of watching someone she'd grown to trust decide she wasn't worth the risk of hoping. She wore her mother's old blue dress that final night for reasons that had nothing to do with disguise anymore, and everything to do with remembering who she wanted to be when it counted. Whatever happened at the benefit, she thought, She'd rather lose gracefully as herself than win as someone else's idea of a Hartwell. Walter Hartwell stepped up to the small stage as the room quieted. "Thank you all for another remarkable year of generosity," he began, then paused, searching the crowd. "Before we continue, I'd like to introduce someone. My daughter has spent the last 6 weeks working alongside your catering staff, your event teams, your security, learning this company from the ground up, the way I once did. Josephine, would you join me?" For a moment, nobody moved. Then a woman near the bar whispered, "Wait, Josie?" And the name rippled outward table by table, guests turning to stare at the caterer in the second-hand dress with dawning, disbelieving recognition. Bradley straightened his jacket too quickly, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Priscilla's wine glass stopped halfway to her lips, her face draining of color, as the pieces she'd already half known assembled themselves in front of 500 witnesses instead of one hallway. And near the kitchen doors, Marcus stood frozen, a tray forgotten in his hands, watching the woman he'd pulled away from, as though he were seeing her for the first time. Josephine climbed the steps and took the microphone, steady. "For 6 weeks, I carried trays through this ballroom without my name," she said, her voice carrying clearly. "I learned who treats people with dignity when nothing is expected in return." Her eyes found Marcus across the room. "And I learned who treats people with cruelty when they believe no one important is watching." She turned toward Priscilla. "Ms. Winthrop has chaired this gala for 3 years. She's also spent 3 weeks manipulating schedules, threatening a caterer's livelihood over a family illness, and mocking staff she assumed could never touch her position." Gasps spread through the nearest tables. An older woman near the front covered her mouth. "As of tonight, the board has voted to remove her from every committee she chairs across the Hartwell Foundation." Priscilla's wineglass trembled in her hand. For the first time in 15 years of carefully guarded status, the entire room was staring at her, not with the admiration she'd spent a lifetime chasing, but with something far worse. Priscilla set down her wineglass with trembling hands and, for once in her life, said nothing in her own defense. She simply turned and walked out of the ballroom she had ruled for 3 years, alone, in silence broken only by her own footsteps. Josephine watched her go without satisfaction. "I'm not interested in destroying her," she told the room quietly, "only in making sure this company never again rewards cruelty over character." She then turned to Bradley, whose confident smile had finally faltered. "Mr. Whitfield, I think you'll find dinner elsewhere tonight." Then she found Marcus. She crossed the ballroom in her second-hand dress, past 500 watching guests, and stopped in front of him. "Everything I told you was true," she said softly. "I'm still the woman who folded linens with you at midnight. I still think you're the most honest person I've met in this building." Marcus set down his tray. "Your world's a little bigger than I thought." "Only if you want it to be," Josephine said. "I'd rather it just be ours." He didn't answer with words. He simply reached for her hand, and the ballroom, sensing exactly what it was witnessing, broke into applause. 3 months later, Marcus finished his paramedic certification, with his mother's medical bills fully covered, through a foundation Josephine quietly established for hospitality workers and their families. He still worked events on weekends, not out of necessity, but because he liked watching people who'd once overlooked him now treat every server in the room with newfound respect. Priscilla resurfaced only once, at a small charity luncheon months later, humbled and unrecognized. She approached Josephine privately, apologized without excuses, and asked nothing in return. Josephine accepted it with a simple nod, choosing peace over pride. On a quiet evening overlooking the city, Josephine leaned against Marcus's shoulder. "Do you think anyone would have noticed me if I hadn't worn this old dress?" Marcus smiled. "I noticed you the first night. Dress had nothing to do with it. Some people are only ever truly seen by those who never needed a reason to look."